The year was 2387, and humanity had stretched its hands to the stars. The ship Aurora's promise drifted silently through the veil, a dark stretch of space where light bent strangely, and sensors often betrayed reality. For years, no one had dared to enter this sector, for signals vanished as if swallowed by nothing. Captain Mira Solon stood on the bridge, her hands gripping the railing as she stared at the shifting patterns of light outside. She was a woman of discipline, a mind trained for precision, yet loneliness often accompanied her in these far reaches. The crew moved around her efficiently, performing checks and reporting status, but behind every professional smile, she could feel the quiet weight of isolation. "Bridge, report," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "All systems nominal." "Captain," replied Lieutenant Ryan, the helmsman, his eyes on the holographic displays. "Except there's a faint interference on the long-range scanners, hard to identify." Mira frowned. "Show me." On the main display, a shifting ripple appeared, subtle but distinct. It was unlike anything the Aurora had encountered before. No pattern, no regular pulse, just a shimmer that seemed almost alive. "Could it be a wormhole?" Ryan suggested. "Maybe," Mira said slowly. "Or maybe it's something else entirely. Dr. Corrin, what do you make of it?" Dr. Elias Corrin, the ship's xenolinguist and quantum communication specialist, leaned forward, his eyes alight with curiosity. He was tall and lean, often lost in thought, and many considered him eccentric. "It's not like any signal we know," he said. "It's emotional." Mira blinked. "Emotional? Signals don't have emotions." "Not in the way we usually think," Elias explained. "But quantum patterns can carry resonance. This is resonating with something inside us. I feel it, Captain, don't you?" Mira hesitated, then realized her chest felt tight, a strange warmth coursing through her as the ripple moved across the scanners. She had no words for it, but there was a pull, as if something beyond comprehension was reaching toward her. "Interesting," she said finally. "Keep monitoring it. No one touches the controls without my order." As the days passed, the Aurora ventured deeper into the veil. Sensors began to fail. Systems flickered, and some crew members reported strange dreams. Elias spent hours in the lab, trying to decode the signal, while Mira organized routines to keep the crew focused. One evening, as the ship glided silently between stars, Mira found herself drawn to the observation deck. She stood alone, watching the light outside bend and twist. The feeling grew stronger, not fear, not excitement, but recognition, as if something familiar waited just beyond her senses. "You feel it too," a voice said beside her. Elias had joined her quietly. Mira nodded. "I can't explain it. It's calling somehow." Elias looked at her with intensity. "Not calling, knowing. It knows you. Us." Before she could respond, the lights flickered. A wave of warmth passed through her, and she swore she heard a whisper, faint but unmistakable. "You are not alone." Elias's eyes widened. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Mira said, her voice barely audible. It spoke." Neither of them knew it yet, but somewhere across the veil, a being of pure energy was watching. Aerith, a Kethran, a species that had existed for eons without form or fear, without emotion or attachment, had never felt curiosity, only observation. But this human ship, its people, their voices of thought and feeling, drew Aerith inexplicably toward them. Back on the Aurora, the signal began to interact with the ship itself. Lights pulsed in rhythm with the emotional resonance, and the bridge felt warmer, almost alive. Crew members began to notice small changes. Personal items slightly shifted positions. The hum of the ship felt like it was breathing, and everyone reported a strange clarity in thought mixed with longing. Lieutenant Ryan frowned. "Captain, some systems are responding to the signal. It's as if it's alive." Mira tightened her jaw. "Alive or not, we maintain control. Keep logging everything, no one panics." But panic was impossible to prevent. As the Aurora ventured further, Hallucinations appeared. Crew members saw familiar faces from their past. Voices of loved ones long gone whispered warnings, and shadows moved in ways that no logical explanation could satisfy. Mira and Elias found themselves spending long hours together in the lab, analyzing the signal. Elias connected quantum sensors to the main array, attempting to synchronize the signal with their own neural patterns. Mira observed, fascinated and slightly unnerved, as tiny waves of light traced invisible patterns around her and Elias. "It's like it's trying to communicate," Elias said. "Not with words, but with feeling." Mira swallowed. "Why us? Why here?" Elias shrugged. "Maybe because we notice. Maybe because we're human. Humans see meaning in the meaningless. That may be what attracts them." Suddenly, a bright pulse exploded through the lab. The lights dimmed and brightened, and both felt a deep connection, a moment where their thoughts intertwined with the signal. Mira's mind brushed against something infinite, and she felt warmth, recognition, and a sense of being seen in a way no one ever had. Elias mirrored the sensation, his pulse racing with exhilaration and awe. "It's alive," Mira whispered. "It's aware," Elias corrected. Outside, Aerith pulsed brighter. The Cathren being experienced a sensation never known to its kind. Awe, not fear, not curiosity, but the unmistakable pull of connection. Mira and Elias had become the first humans to reach through the barrier of its consciousness. That night, the ship settled into an uneasy calm. Crew members were tired but strangely serene, as if the signal had soothed their fears. Mira and Elias remained on the observation deck, staring at the shifting lights of the veil. "We don't know what it wants," Mira said softly. "Perhaps it doesn't want anything," Elias replied. "Maybe it just recognizes." Recognition, Mira repeated the word in her mind. It resonated more than any logic, any theory. The idea that a soul, or something like a soul, could recognize another across light years, across species, across reality itself. It was terrifying and beautiful. Somewhere in the distance, Aerith pulsed again, sending a ripple that brushed the aurora like a caress. It was the closest thing to a greeting. Mira felt it, Elias felt it, and the crew felt it, though none could name what it was. The next morning, reports came in. The interference had grown stronger, now pulsing in rhythm with the Aurora's engines. The ship seemed to hum with life. Sensors captured strange quantum patterns, almost like writing, but too complex for any human mind to read. "Captain," Elias said, eyes wide with wonder, "this isn't just a signal. It's a message, a first attempt at contact. And somehow, it already knows us." Mira nodded. "Then we proceed carefully. We are explorers, yes, but now we are part of something bigger than ourselves, and we have to honor it." As the Aurora sailed further into the veil, the crew could no longer deny it. The signal, whatever it was, had found them. It had reached across space, across consciousness, and touched the essence of their being. And in that touch, Mira felt a warmth she had never known, a reassurance that even in the coldest stretches of space, humanity's heart could be recognized. In the silence that followed, Mira whispered to no one in particular, "We are not alone." And for the first time, that was not just a hope. It was a truth. The Aurora's promise moved deeper into the veil, its hull glinting faintly under the strange bending light of distant stars. Inside the ship, the crew worked tirelessly, but an unspoken tension hung in the air. The signal, that strange living resonance, had grown stronger, pulsing with rhythms that seemed almost human. Captain Mira Solon walked the corridors, observing her crew. Despite the growing unease, there was a new energy among them. The engineers spoke in hushed tones about lights responding to their moods, and the medics noted unusual calm in the patients who were normally anxious during space travel. It was as if the signal had touched everyone, connecting them in ways they could not explain. In the lab, Dr. Elias Karan worked with quantum sensors, attempting to synchronize human neural patterns with the signal. He and Mira had begun to spend more time together, not just as captain and scientist, but as two people drawn by a force beyond logic. "Captain," Elias said one evening. I think I can try something. Risky. Mira looked up from her observation post. Risky how? I want to attempt a direct connection, not just through the ship but through the signal itself. It's untested, but I believe it might let us communicate with whatever is sending this emotion. Mira studied him for a long moment. Her heart beat faster, not from fear but from anticipation. Then we do it, carefully. You are not alone in this. I'll assist. Elias nodded, and together they prepared the synchronization chamber. The room was filled with softly glowing panels and wires that hummed with anticipation. Mira sat in the captain's seat, Elias beside her, as sensors attached to their heads monitored neural activity. Ready? Elias said, voice steady but tense. Mira took a deep breath. Do it. The lights dimmed and a soft hum filled the chamber. The quantum sensors activated, sending pulses of energy into the signal. At first nothing happened. Then a gentle warmth spread through Mira's chest. She felt a presence, not physical but undeniable. Something vast, something not human touched her mind. It was Aerith. The energy being had never felt emotion, never known the pull of curiosity mixed with awe. But as it reached out to Mira, something inside Aerith shifted. It recognized her not as a creature of flesh and blood, but as a soul that resonated in harmony with its own essence. For the first time in millennia, Aerith experienced curiosity that carried wonder and a strange, inexplicable joy. Mira gasped, a shiver running down her spine. She could feel the being, vast, bright, and unfamiliar. Yet there was a comforting presence in that energy, as if she had known it forever. Elias watched her closely, and when he reached out, he too felt the connection. The three consciousnesses touched across impossible distances, exchanging understanding without words. This is incredible, Elias whispered. It's aware, and it knows us, Mira nodded, awed. And somehow I feel it. I understand it. Aerith pulsed brighter, responding to the human's emotions. It had never known fear, love, or hope. Now it felt something close to what humans called recognition. Mira and Elias were not just observers. They were mirrors to something Aerith could not name, yet already cherished. But not all Cuthran were pleased. Across the veil, the Cuthran collective observed the disturbance. They existed as beings of pure thought and energy, believing emotion to be a flaw. Aerith's fascination with humans, its unexplainable attraction to their empathy, alarmed them. They began sending waves of energy to erase the anomaly, considering it a threat. Back on the Aurora, the ship trembled. Systems fluctuated, lights flickered, and alarms sounded softly. Crew members felt unease ripple through them, but none panicked. The pulse of the signal had grown stronger than ever, and Mira understood what must be done. We need to keep it stable, she said to Elias. If the Cuthran try to erase it, the signal and the connection could be destroyed. Elias worked quickly, connecting the ship's systems to the quantum sensors. If I can amplify the human emotional frequency, maybe, just maybe, we can reach the Cuthran directly. Show them what we are, not just who we are. Mira's eyes narrowed with determination. Then we do it. Humanity has a strength they can't understand, and we'll show them. Hours passed as they calibrated the equipment. Mira and Elias prepared themselves to merge their consciousnesses with the signal fully, risking mental exhaustion or worse. As the Aurora glided through the veil, the energy around them shifted, forming patterns that seemed almost like faces or eyes that watched them, curious and cautious. Elias took Mira's hand briefly. Whatever happens, we do this together, she nodded. Together, the chamber hummed as the synchronization began. Mira felt herself dissolve into the signal, her thoughts stretching beyond the boundaries of her mind. She was aware of Elias beside her, of the crew in the ship, and most of all of Aerith reaching back toward her. The sensation was overwhelming. Light and warmth enveloped her mind. Aerith's essence intertwined with hers, not in dominance but in mutual recognition. It was as if two strangers had always known each other, even without names, even without faces. This is connection, Mira whispered, her voice trembling. We understand each other. Elias's voice echoed in her mind. It's real. We're touching something beyond us. The Cuthran collective surged, sending waves of energy meant to sever the connection. The ship shook violently. Lights danced chaotically. Crew members clutched consoles to steady themselves. But Mira and Elias held firm, their minds anchored to the signal. their hearts in unison with the resonance. Arith pulsed in brilliant bursts, shielding the humans from the destructive waves. The being had never acted in defense before, but now, driven by recognition and something resembling care, it stabilized the connection. "Captain," Ryan shouted. "The ship is holding barely." Mira's mind touched Arith's again, and she realized something astonishing. The Catherine could feel if they were willing to try. Human emotion was contagious, and even a species that had lived for eons without empathy could not resist its pull. Elias leaned close to the display, monitoring the amplified wave. "We can do this." "If we sustain the frequency, the collective might understand. Not as a threat, but as truth." Mira closed her eyes, focusing on her feelings. Courage, hope, empathy, and recognition. She poured all of it into the wave, letting it flow through the aurora and out into the veil. Elias mirrored her, and together their connection became a radiant pulse of human emotion. Outside the ship, Arith glowed brighter than ever. Its energy interfaced with the human's pulse, forming a bridge of light across the void. The Catherine collective paused, uncertain, sensing for the first time what humans called emotion. Anger, joy, hope, and loss washed over them in waves they had never known. Inside the aurora, the crew watched in awe as the impossible happened. Systems stabilized, lights pulsed in harmony, and a soft hum of resonance filled the ship. The crew felt calm, united, and aware of something beyond comprehension. Their emotions had power. Their empathy could reach across space and species. Mira opened her eyes, staring at the shimmer of light forming near the observation deck. "We've done it," she whispered. "We've touched them." Elias nodded, his eyes shining. "And they've touched us back. Not just Arith, maybe all of them." The connection lasted only a moment, but it changed everything. Arith pulsed one final time, sending a message of understanding that the humans could feel but not yet interpret. Then it retreated into the depths of the veil, leaving a memory in the minds of Mira and Elias, a recognition of something eternal, something beyond names, beyond language, beyond species. Mira stood on the deck, staring into the veil. "We were never alone," she said softly. "And maybe we never will be again." Elias joined her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We've proven something incredible, Mira, that our hearts, our humanity, they matter. They can bridge worlds." The crew moved quietly around them, aware that they had witnessed a first, a contact that did not rely on words, technology, or dominance, but on recognition, a force that connected beings in the simplest, most profound way. As the aurora drifted onward, the stars of the veil shimmered differently, almost like a promise. Mira felt a warmth deep in her chest, a certainty that humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, its strategy, or its resilience alone, but its capacity to feel, to care, and to reach beyond itself. Somewhere in the distance, Arith pulsed again, faintly, a heartbeat of light echoing recognition. And Mira knew without needing words that the bridge they had formed would endure, a connection between souls before names were even known. The journey into the unknown was far from over. But for the first time, the humans of the aurora understood a truth that would guide them forever. In the vastness of space, humanity's heart could shine brighter than any star, and that light could touch even the most ancient of beings. The aurora's promise drifted deeper into the heart of the veil. For weeks, the crew had experienced the strange pulses, the whispers of recognition, and the presence of Arith, the Catherine being that had first reached out to them. And now, something had changed. Outside, the space around the aurora shimmered like a living tapestry of light. Patterns moved in ways that seemed deliberate, forming shapes reminiscent of eyes, wings, and hearts. Mira stood on the observation deck, staring in awe. The entire veil seemed alive, responding to the signal that humanity had sent, amplified by their courage, empathy, and hope. Dr. Elias Corrin approached her quietly, a rare smile on his face. "They're reacting to us, not just Arith. The collective is listening." Mira nodded, though worry creased her brow. "If they truly understand, will they accept us? Or see us as a threat?" Elias shook his head. "We've shown them something they've never experienced before. They can't ignore it. They can't erase it without feeling it themselves." The bridge lights flickered, and the ship's system stabilized as the resonance of human emotion intertwined with the Catherine energy. Crew members reported waves of warmth and clarity. Fear and anxiety seemed to melt away, replaced with determination, hope, and understanding. Suddenly, the veil brightened. Aerith pulsed in brilliant light, forming a bridge of energy that extended toward the aurora. Mira felt her heart surge. The being's presence was overwhelming yet comforting. It was a language without words. Recognition, acceptance, and connection. "Captain," Elias whispered, "this is it. This is the moment of first true contact." Mira's hand rested lightly on the console. "We have to be ready for anything, but I feel they want peace." Aerith pulsed once more and the aurora responded. The bridge of light extended, wrapping around the ship like a protective cocoon. The Catherine Collective had sensed the humans' emotion, their courage, their hope, their recognition of life beyond themselves, and for the first time, they felt emotion was a new language to the Catherine. Awe, curiosity, joy, and understanding washed over the collective. They had lived eons as beings of pure thought and energy, without feeling, without weakness, but the humans' hearts carried a force they could not resist, the power of connection. Inside the aurora, the crew felt it too. It was more than sight or sound. It was an understanding deep in their souls. Mira turned to Elias. "We've done more than reach them. We've touched them, in a way they cannot ignore." Elias smiled. "It's incredible. Our humanity, our empathy. It matters more than any weapon, any technology. It's the strongest force in the universe." As the resonance grew, the Catherine Collective hesitated. Some still feared the humans, fearing the uncontrollable emotions they had experienced. But Aerith pulsed with insistence, a beacon of calm courage. It was Aerith who spoke first, not in words, but in energy that the humans could feel as certainty. They are not weak. They endure, they care. That is their strength. The collective paused, processing the new sensations. For the first time in their existence, they understood something beyond survival or knowledge. They saw the beauty of vulnerability, the power of hope, and the strength of recognition. Mira closed her eyes, letting the resonance flow through her. She felt her crew, Elias, and even Aerith, not as separate beings, but as a connected whole. In that moment, names, species, or forms did not matter. Only connection mattered, only understanding, only the shared heartbeat of life. Elias touched her hand gently. "Mira, we're making history, not just for humanity, but for all life here. They see us and they feel us. That's stronger than anything I imagined." Suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed from the veil. It was overwhelming, almost too much for the ship to handle. Alarms rang and lights flickered violently. Crew members braced themselves, but Mira held her ground. She focused, channeling her emotions into the ship's systems, stabilizing it with sheer will and recognition of the moment. Elias mirrored her, adding the strength of his mind and heart to the resonance. Together they amplified the wave, spreading it across the aurora, through the veil and into the consciousness of the Catherine. The destructive energy transformed into understanding. What could have been annihilation became enlightenment. The collective pulsed in unison, a sign of acceptance. Aerith shimmered in brilliant light, sending a final wave toward the humans. Gratitude, recognition, and the promise of continued connection. Outside, the veil seemed to sigh, the stars bending in harmony with the aurora. The ship floated in calm, silent wonder. Humanity had not just survived. They had reached across species and dimensions, showing that emotion, recognition, and care were forces as powerful as any technology. Mira turned to her crew. "We did it," she said softly. "We showed them who we are. And they saw us, not as weak, but as strong. Strong because we feel, because we care, because we connect." The crew cheered quietly, knowing this was a moment that would be remembered for generations. They had witnessed a first contact not defined by language or conquest, but by recognition of soul and heart. Elias joined Mira at the observation deck. "I think Aerith will remember us," he said, a mixture of awe and hope in his voice. "And maybe the collective will too," Mira nodded. "Even without names, they recognized us, and that is more than words could ever say." The ship began its journey back toward human space, carrying more than data or maps. It carried a story, a proof that humanity's greatest strength was not in weapons or speed, but in the ability to connect, to feel, and to recognize life in others. Days later, the Aurora returned to known space. The crew was exhausted but changed, not just physically but spiritually. They had seen the impossible, touched the unknowable, and survived to share it. In the quiet of the observation deck, Mira gazed at the stars and felt a pulse of light far away. It was Aerith saying goodbye for now, leaving a mark in their minds and hearts. She whispered, "Some souls don't need names to know each other." Elias stood beside her. "And some connections last longer than any journey, longer than any star." The Aurora's crew had learned a truth that would guide humanity for generations. That empathy, hope, and recognition were powers capable of changing the universe. And somewhere in the veil, Aerith pulsed once more, carrying a spark of humanity. Proof that even in the darkest corners of space, hearts could touch, and souls could recognize each other long before words were ever spoken. As the ship sailed home, the stars seemed brighter, the universe fuller, and humanity more alive. In the hearts of every crew member, the memory of connection burned like a star, a reminder that the greatest strength of humanity was not in domination or survival alone, but in the courage to care, to recognize, and to reach out to the unknown. And in that moment, the Aurora's promise was not just a ship exploring the stars, it was a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of recognition, and a reminder that some bonds, invisible, intangible, eternal, can transcend all boundaries, naming nothing, yet meaning everything.